29, never touched a drug. Not even just never touched a drug, actually thought drugs were disgusting. Meanwhile, I was getting blackout drunk every weekend. So actually I was a drug user anyway. What do I do when I feel lonely? I straight away jump into another relationship. I'm only worthy if I'm in a relationship. So get into this like toxic dynamic. He was a very highly functioning cocaine addict. And I was so lonely and desperate for, I guess, just someone to love me, because I obviously didn't really feel that about myself, that I just went, oh, okay, fine. So just let that happen. It started off with MD, coke, and doing things like that. I stopped drinking actually when I started taking party drugs, which was really good for me because I had been such a terrible blackout drunk drinker. I guess one thing led to another. I was in such a dark place mentally in terms of feeling really depressed and suicidal that I also kind of got to that point where I was like, I just don't care. And like you said, I'll just try anything. Slowly just lost everything. It was like, yeah, the business, I didn't have a lot of money, but any money. Gambling obviously then came into the picture. And then it ended up with me living in my car. And eventually I moved into this crack den. When I was using meth and started to get into using it daily, which was kind of a slow progression as well. It sort of started, as I said, like every couple of days, and then it was a here and there, and then it was like every single day by myself. I think that was a big thing. It was like, oh, now I'm actually using on my own, not just with other people. My personal definition of addiction is something that you use to soothe emotional pain. And it doesn't have to be, as people call it, like capital T trauma. It can be something as simple as loneliness.
Welcome to School of Rock Bottom with Oliver Mason. I'm an actor, a voiceover artist, and a recovery coach who's been sober 10 years. And I know firsthand that rock bottom can be the greatest teacher and the springboard for a beautiful life. And as you know, I interview fellow creatives and all inspiring people that have hit rock bottom moments, survived and thrived. This is a podcast of hope and how to get out of the darkness into the light. And that's why I'm so excited today, because I've got the cool and courageous Charlotte Jackson in the studio.
Hello.
How you doing, Charlotte?
Good. How are you?
Thanks so much for coming to see me today.
Very, very exciting intro. I feel like I should be in a live studio audience.
I know, it's how it feels. You know, it's we're very lucky, ladies and gentlemen, because she's about to go off to Bali. So I've got her just in the nick of time. Before we get into who Charlotte is, I just want to give a quick shout out to this episode's sponsor, Gavin Sisters. Head to the show notes now for 10% off their funky coffee and wellness retreats. Right, Charlotte Jackson. If you don't know who Charlotte is, shame on you. You will do now. So a quick bio. So Charlotte was 29 and had never touched a drug in her life. Then she moved to Australia, had a breakup, and everything unraveled. Crystal meth, gambling, homelessness, and ended up living in a crack den. But that's not who she is now. Today, she is a certified holistic coach, energy healer, EFT practitioner, and more importantly, a woman who's come back from the edge. She's all about freedom, lives life on her own terms, and when someone tells her she can't, her answer is simple: watch me. She's nearly 5 years clean. She's grounded, spiritual, inspiration, and as I said, heading to Bali next month, which I'm very, very jealous about. And she's here to share the story no one expects, but everyone needs to hear. Wow, what an intro.
What an intro.
It's great, isn't it?
I feel excited to meet myself.
We're going to start, as you know, with you choosing a rock bottom moment. But from there, we're going to get into the light, the hope, the joy, the recovery.
Yeah, so we kind of spoke about rock bottom earlier, and I was trying to define a rock bottom, my rock bottom moment. And I think for me, despite everything that I went through with addiction, drugs, gambling, homelessness, all of the things, my rock bottom started, it was many different things, but I think it was before the addiction that I really experienced rock bottom. And that was just after breaking up with my fiance of 5 years. We'd been together for 5 years, rebounded into a relationship straight away, which was very typical of me back then. And I ended up in a relationship with someone where, and I'd like to say it was a toxic relationship, but I also think that that dynamic is built by two people. It's not just put on one person. So together we created this toxic dynamic where there was no emotional availability, a lot of drug use going on, a lot of partying, I was really depressed, obviously grieving the previous relationship, had no idea how to grieve it. And I just remember going through life for that year where I just felt as though I was just completely numb and not present, spaced out, suicidal. I think I had 3 suicide attempts in that 1-year relationship. And it was that to me was more rock bottom than anything else really that I went through, because it was this feeling of loneliness, even though there's someone right beside you. And I think that's almost the worst kind of loneliness, is when you're surrounded by people, you just don't feel a connection.
Right.
And that to me, when I really think back mentally, the biggest impact was that, for sure.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I think loneliness is a thread that runs through your story, having kind of professionally stalked you for the last couple of days with your podcast, which absolutely. I'll put links to your podcast and, your socials, of course, in the show notes. But yeah, definitely a thread that runs through. It sounds like it was kind of like the perfect storm in a way. Because, you moved to Australia with someone, I believe, and then you broke up. You must have felt quite isolated as well, sort of being away from your sort of family and being abroad, and then sort of jumping it straight into another relationship.
It's a theme that has run throughout my life since childhood. So I grew up overseas in Hong Kong.
Right.
And we moved quite a lot. So it was sort of 2 years in Hong Kong, 2 years back in the UK, back in Hong Kong, back in the UK. Then my dad went to Saudi Arabia. So we were kind of always moving.
Okay.
And I always felt like an outsider, because wherever I went, I was the new girl. I think I went to 7 different schools before the age of 11 or something like that. Oh, wow.
Okay.
So a lot of moving around and feeling out of place, Once I finished high school, I went to university in Scotland. So again, I was, the odd one out, the English person in Aberdeen, the furthest place away that I could go. And then as soon as I graduated, I moved to Australia, where again, it was this feeling of I don't fit in. So it was almost this self-fulfilling prophecy of I'm the person that doesn't fit in. And I think I kind of, looking back now, I laugh thinking about it, because I definitely felt it from a victim point of view of like, oh, poor me, I never fit in. You look back and you think, yeah, but Charlotte, you put yourself yourself in those situations where you didn't.
Sure.
So I kind of did it to myself in a way, but that came with a feeling of loneliness, because I never really felt as though I had my core group of friends. I didn't grow up in the same town that I've got friends from home.
Yeah.
Even the high school that I went to boarding school, so everyone was kind of dotted around the country. So even going home to my parents' house wasn't this sense of community or belonging. And that's something that I really, really found through drugs, is this community and this belonging of, oh, wow, like this is actually a place where I know people, and that feeling, that sense of camaraderie that you have. And I think everyone who goes through addiction, if you look at what the drugs are giving you outside of the typical high or whatever, the things they're giving you aren't necessarily destructive, but that's what you're searching for. So like the connection, the community, maybe the confidence, like whatever it might be, you can actually see what it is that you're missing. And
it took away your loneliness, I suspect.
Yeah. And obviously it's a false sense of that.
Sure.
Like it's not really doing that.
No.
But if you look at it from that point of view, you actually, and then it gives you some sort of empathy for yourself as well, because you think, well, I was just really lonely and I was trying to fill that void in some way.
I mean, loneliness is absolutely key to our survival. You know, if you sort of look back to when we were chimps and things like that, if you're a chimp on your own, you're basically dead. So this sort of need to be part of a group is really, really linked almost to those core things around sort of temperature, water and food and things like that. So if your brain kind of learnt in that moment taking drugs that your loneliness was taken away, that is actually quite a powerful kind of, I call addiction a sort of like a chronic learning disorder. It really sort of like learns in that moment. Oh, wow, this can take away this pain potentially from this loneliness. I mean, I don't want to sort of psychoanalyze you, but to me, it kind of is almost like the perfect storm. But having said all of that, how do we get from 29 not taking drugs to basically taking nearly every drug under the sun, I think, listening to your story. I don't know if there was a drug you didn't try, to being addicted to meth, gambling, and living in a crack den. A bit of a challenge here, but I'm gonna see if you can tell us under 5 minutes how you got there.
Okay, so 29, never touched a drug. Not even just never touched a drug, actually thought drugs were disgusting. Okay. I was very judgmental of people who took drugs, which in a way is kind of ironic, almost quite funny in hindsight. I'm like, now I understand the other side of it. But I was very judgmental, why can't they just stop? Just thought it was a substance thing, thought it was just disgusting. Why would anyone do that? Meanwhile, I was getting blackout drunk every weekend. So actually I was a drug user anyway, but I just didn't see it like that. So moved over to Australia. I met an Australian in London, moved over there. He obviously was based out there anyway, so automatically he was like in there with his friends and everything. But after 6 months, we broke up, completely different lives. He was building a home, had just bought a house. He was very level-headed, and I was very getting blackout drunk every weekend. So we were very mismatched, and it came to an end quickly. Bounced into a new relationship, another theme in my life. And that was the guy I ended up engaged to. So fast forward to 29 and I'm there. I've never taken drugs. We've just broken up and lonely. What do I do when I feel lonely? I straight away jump into another relationship. I'm only worthy if I'm in a relationship. So get into this like toxic dynamic with this person who was 100% the wrong person to be in a relationship with at that time. And it was a really quick descent. Within a year, he was a very highly functioning cocaine addict, but sort of masked it as like, oh, I'm a bit of a party boy. I only do it on weekends. But it was like thousands and thousands of dollars that were getting spent on coke. Wow. And every other partner that I'd ever had who did drugs, I would say, that's disgusting. I don't want that, And they would stop. But this guy, he was like, well, take it or leave it. That's what I do. And I was so lonely and desperate for, I guess, just someone to love me, because I obviously didn't really feel that about myself, that I just went, oh, okay, fine. So just let that happen, and kind of abandoned, I guess, that part of myself that was like, I would never do that. And eventually thought, hold on a second. And this is my inquisitive mind that is actually probably part of what helped me get out of addiction as well. But I thought it really bothers me when, say, people will say, I really hate tomatoes, but they've never eaten one. And I thought, how can I judge something that I've never even tried or had any experience of? That's actually quite a ridiculous thing to do generally in life. So I joined the party, and it started off with MD, coke, and doing things like that. I stopped drinking actually when I started taking party drugs, which was really good for me because I had been such a terrible blackout drunk drinker. And I guess one thing led to another. I was in such a dark place mentally in terms of feeling really depressed and suicidal that I also kind of got to that point where I was like, I just don't care. And like you said, I'll just try anything, like anything that comes my way. So throughout that relationship, I was taking more and more and more drugs, also using drugs on my own. I mean, I can remember going out for dinner with this guy and being so high on MD, and he just would not even be aware. I was just sitting there with, pupils the size of saucers. And we broke up after a year. And then I was sleeping on a friend's couch. And then the person that I moved in with was a crystal meth user. And he actually was like daily user, but I didn't realize at the time. So we used to smoke every single weekend. And I was still kind of holding down a job, but not really. But once you're kind of introduced to that world, the dealers, the gangs, everything that's like part of it, you kind of get a little bit, I guess, sucked in, and it becomes your new reality. Oh, this is the new reality. So then I moved into my own place, actually started a business, which was an interesting thing to do mid-addiction, and was successful at it too. But as obviously happens with addiction, lost everything. Ended up again kind of like couch surfing, living with friends that were still, to be honest, I don't know why, happy to put me up knowing that I was in the middle of addiction. And I just slowly just lost everything. It was like, the business, I didn't have a lot of money, but any money. Gambling obviously then came into the picture. And then it ended up with me living in my car, and just bouncing around from like house to house to house. And eventually I moved into this crack den with my ex-boyfriend, who I'd lived with when I had my own apartment. And then he actually went to prison. And when he came out, I was bouncing around like house to house to house. And I just picked up the phone and I said, "You owe me." I was like, "You used to live with me in my apartment. I have nowhere to live. Like, I'm moving in with you." And he was like, "Okay, come on in." And so that I just lived in this house, which the best way to describe it was a crack den.
Sorry to interrupt. One thing that I found quite interesting studying your story is that actually it wasn't as bad as maybe you thought it might be, in the sense that you were getting breakfast in the morning and you were getting meals. And I'm sure it was very chaotic. You describe it as a crack den, but particularly with your backdrop of sort of loneliness and not belonging, I can imagine actually it wasn't as bad as maybe people would assume, because it had a sort of family dynamic in the sense that you were getting fed, and again, you weren't alone. Would that be fair to say?
So strange, because it's this complete paradox. You've got, on one hand, people shooting up in the kitchen, and then on the other hand, you've got, let's all sit down for dinner. What should we have for dinner tonight? You know, right. And you're thinking,
shooting up heroin or crystal meth, or maybe you didn't know.
A mixture, depending on the person. And, you know, there's no lock on the front door. There's people in and out all the time. And you think, this is bizarre. It's chaotic, unsafe. Yet at the same time, I feel taken care of by some of the people that live here. So I'm thinking,
makes sense. I get that.
It was really strange. Yeah. I can remember kind of lying there, and I mean, obviously, I had a connection with my ex who lived there. We'd known each other by that point for a couple of years, even though we weren't together anymore. I'm still in touch now, actually, and he's still in that house, which is like shocking when I think about it. And yeah, there was this weird sense of this like community and care between us. Yeah. Even though we're in this bizarre situation where there were other people that would come in. And I mean, since I left that house, I've heard all stories of, someone came in and robbed this and did that and da-da-da. But when I was there, stuff like that didn't happen. So
was there sex work going on and guns, or have I been... Not in that
period.
Not in that house. Not in that period.
Yeah.
Got you. Wow.
Yeah.
I think there'll be some listeners and viewers who won't really understand what crystal meth is. Even in the recovery community, I've found working in rehabs that sort of other drug users kind of get it confused with other things. And I think it's because it's more prevalent in countries like Czechoslovakia, Australia, America. But having said that, it's very much on the rise in the UK. And given how addictive it is, you know, I think it's something that we need to be concerned about because of that. So just for those that are a little bit unsure about what crystal meth exactly is. So crystal meth, or ice, is a powerful illegal stimulant that hits fast, flooding the brain with dopamine and creating a short-lived rush of euphoria, energy, and confidence. But the crash is brutal and it's highly addictive. It's made in illegal labs using cold medicine. Then it's chemically processed with toxic substances like battery lithium, red phosphorus from matchboxes, paint thinner, and drain cleaner. I couldn't believe that when I learned that, but having watched Breaking Bad, maybe that's why that makes sense. These chemicals don't just get mixed in, they're combined to create meth. The end result is real meth, just made in dangerous, unregulated conditions. And it's also a lot more intensely powerful and addictive. Compared to amphetamines like speed, meth hits faster, harder, and causes far more harm. And countries like Australia and the US are in the middle of a meth crisis, but use in the UK, like I just said, is on the increase year on year. I'm a little bit careful to ask this question because I certainly don't want to tempt anybody to try it. But I mean, I'm sort of getting this sense that, you know, you try meth once and there's such a big high and such a brutal crash that you're kind of almost locked in straight away. Is that too simple?
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
Okay.
I think it's, if I describe it, for me, I never really experienced like a big rush. So I've tried lots of different drugs, and for me, that rush feeling would be like crack cocaine,
Okay.
where it's like, you're like, whoa, like I feel like I've taken something.
Sorry to interrupt. I don't think you enjoyed crack, right? Because researching
No.
you got very anxious on it. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so anxious and so paranoid. I was like, this is not for me. Yeah, and I just remember having a really bad kind of turn on it one day where I felt so anxious, and I just said, I am never taking that again. And I just did not. It was, not. But like I said, everyone has their vice. That wasn't mine.
Sure.
But yeah, with meth, the way I actually describe it to people is that it sounds a bit strange, but you know that feeling that you get when you're doing a puzzle and you find a piece of the puzzle and you put it in, and for like that second you're like, oh yeah, like I solved it, I did something.
Wow.
It gives you this feeling of, like everything's like, your whole life could be crashing around you, and you're like, like life's good, like life is good.
Got you.
And that it's just that feeling of, I guess, I mean, there's probably a chemical release or something when you're doing a puzzle and you find a piece, like a little bit of dopamine or something like that. Yeah. But it just gives you this feeling of satisfaction. That's how I would describe it.
But it must be more intense than that, right? Because I mean, that moment that I put that piece in the puzzle, it's satisfying, but I don't want to like do it, till the ends of death.
Clearly, you're not a puzzle person.
No.
Obviously, the more and more you can obviously get high from it.
Yeah.
And you don't sleep on it if you don't want to, and you can keep going to the point. I mean, again, I think I'm quite a strange anomaly with sometimes with some of the things that happen with me with drugs and the way that I look to everything. And I'm very inquisitive as a person. And when I started taking drugs, I was constantly on the internet looking at different forums, like reading about, like people's different experiences. And I can't remember, there was one website I used to go on all the time, almost like Reddit, but for drugs. And I'd just be like, reading all these stories, finding it fascinating and almost laughing at like the funny things that people would do on certain drugs and like being able to relate. Oh yeah, that does happen. And so I knew like from the get-go, if you don't sleep, that's going to fuck you up. Wait, can I swear on it?
Of course you can. Yeah, go for it. No problem.
So yeah, I knew that's going to fuck you up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're on drugs or not. If you don't sleep, you will go crazy. It's a form of torture.
Yep.
In certain places, So I knew that. So I never let myself go too long without sleeping, apart from one time where I almost did it as a experiment just to see what would happen. And I stayed up, I think, for 7 days, and I wasn't working or anything, and I started to see what people describe as the shadow people, which obviously there's no shadow people, but it's like your eyesight just starts to play tricks on you.
Yeah, I've had that.
And I thought, that's probably as far as I'm going to take this, and it didn't really appeal to me. But I think the rush from it is that you feel so productive, even though after a while you're not, because you actually then you go from being super focused and productive to being someone who is trying to leave the house, but like they can't remember where they've put anything, and there's a lot of flapping around. And
it's interesting how you describe it, because I think the stereotype's quite different, right? You sort of, I've sort of got visions of sort of meth face, where people look sort of, and of course that can happen. I mean, I think even on your Instagram, there's a before and after shot that you've still got up, and you can see there's a massive difference on how you look. But what do you think the stereotypes are, and how would you say that they're false? Because I'm guessing that is part of the truth.
Yeah. The stereotypes to me are, people talk about sort of as if they think there's something under their skin and they're like itching, scabs like all over your face. And people, thinking ridiculous things like they can fly, or really just like not being with it.
Yeah.
Being so desperate for the drug that they will do anything to get it, like screw over any one of their friends, rob someone, this, that. Of course that exists. Like, of course it does.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's what every single person who takes it is like.
You're talking about something a bit more functional, actually, the way you're describing it, the puzzle analogy, getting more productive. I mean, how much were you using for how long? I mean, was it quite regular? Was it every day, or would you take breaks? I mean,
at the start, it was probably like every few days. and only really smoking with other people.
Yeah. But then, sorry to interrupt again, it lasts a few days. Am I right in saying that? Would it linger for those days that you've not smoked?
Like you could smoke some in the morning.
Okay.
And go through your whole day and probably the whole next day and then like feel tired by the end of that day.
Got you.
So I guess it's like a 48-hour.
You're getting bang for your buck.
Yeah. Which
sure.
I think is why it's so common in Australia because Coke is very expensive in Australia.
And lasts, 15 minutes?
So for the same amount, it's the same price for the same amount, but it lasts a lot longer.
Right, gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah, so you definitely do get this like high from it. It also used to give me a big feeling of connectedness in terms of not to people necessarily, but like the world around me.
Interesting.
That listening to music, I would feel like I was part of the music. But also being like so aware.
Well, Carl Jung had an interesting perspective on addiction. Well, alcoholism in particular, but I guess it was all addiction. That it was an individual's attempt to recreate a spiritual experience. I don't know if that's true, but it's interesting the way you sort of describe it in a similar way. But take me to some of those negative aspects. I mean, you mentioned sort of feeling suicidal and all of that. How long did it take for it to get very dark, sort of emotionally and mentally and maybe spiritually? So
I would say that the depression and the suicidal part was sort of pre-meth. And then when I was using meth and started to get into using it daily, which was kind of a slow progression as well. It sort of started, as I said, like every couple of days, and then it was a here and there, and then it was like every single day by myself. I think that was a big thing. It was like, oh, now I'm actually using on my own, not just with other people.
Interesting, yeah.
And maybe now I'm using it as soon as I wake up rather than like just socially or whatever it might be. So I think that the difficult stuff and the darkness came almost through the relationships that I was having from using.
Okay.
And I think that when you're in that place, you do not like yourself. Like if you're really honest about it and you listen to what's going on internally, like you think you're a piece of shit, I would say. Like you almost hate yourself, really. Hate everything about yourself. So the relationships that you're having with people, whether they be friendships or romantic, whatever, they're not for your highest good. I mean, they are spiritually, but
gotcha.
On a human level, they're not for your highest good.
I understand what you're saying.
And those were the dynamics that brought difficulty into my life, I think. It's like every person who's using is going through something. And we all have a different reason as to why we're using, but most of it's trauma-based.
Yeah.
I think my personal definition of addiction is something that you use to soothe emotional pain. So that doesn't have to be drugs. It could be something as simple as scrolling on Instagram, really.
Absolutely.
But there's a reason that you're doing it that's deeper than just like, oh, I just have fun. I just like to take drugs, or I just this. Yeah. It's like so many people take drugs and don't become addicts. So why do some people? Is it just a predisposition to that? It's like your genetic makeup and physically I mean, I don't believe that. I think it's emotional, and there is something that it doesn't have to be, as people call it, like capital T trauma. It can be something as simple as loneliness or whatever that causes you to turn to this thing, and then you can't stop doing it because it's filling that void.
Yeah, I think someone like Gabor Mate would probably say that loneliness is trauma. You know, his definition of trauma is quite, the threshold can be quite low.
I think they say that it's the equivalent to being punched in the face by a stranger. Like that's the effect it has on you when you're feeling it.
Yeah.
But obviously you can't see it.
Yeah.
And so I think that the darkness and everything, it came from like that, all of that. It was like, it wasn't really the drugs, it's like what comes from the drugs, the instability, the lack of money, especially once I started gambling. It was like I had nothing. And then you're just then you get down to like your survival. Where am I sleeping tonight?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm living in my car, cool. Where am I going to have a shower? Like it's just, there's just so many parts to it where there's there's a lot
But
of...
the constant thing was, I got to get hit of meth.
Not really.
Not even then.
No.
It was more gambling, right? It turned into?
Gambling was a far deeper addiction for me than the meth. But they do seem to go hand in hand. A lot of people who are addicted to meth are addicted to, well, when I say gambling, I'm talking about slot machines specifically.
Yeah.
So you're literally just sitting there.
Well, do you know what I found really, I mean, I almost laughed when I learned this bit of your story, that you were homeless living in a car.
Yeah.
But the casino was giving you hotel rooms, and I think you were a platinum member at the same time.
Yeah. Because
which just goes to show that's crazy, right? It's
crazy. And this is, I think, and you mentioned this to me earlier, that I sort of have this lightness to me. And perhaps I look at, I come on to podcasts sometimes and tell my story, and people are like, come on, like, tell me like the depth, like, you know, I want to hear the stuff that's like, I want to hear about how you almost died and how this happened.
Right.
Yes, okay. There were so many times that things happened where like I ended up in hospital, didn't know what had happened, like feared for my life around certain individuals, all these things. But I find it so hard to look at that and be like, yeah, like it was so bad, because I always looked at it through this lens of like, this is crazy that this is my life, and almost it's funny. Like it's obviously not funny.
You found some lightness in there.
But it kind of was funny when I'm at this casino and I have nothing to my name. But because I was quite lucky with my gambling, I wasn't spending much money to win a lot, but all of that was going back in. So to the casino, I'm gambling like $4,000 in a night. But actually to me, I spent 50. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're giving me all the benefits. I'm like platinum member, got valet car parking, like free nights at the hotel, food, alcohol, all the things. It's open 24/7. And actually it kind of became a sanctuary to me because I felt safe.
Yeah.
It's like nothing can happen to me in these walls because there's security and they all know me. And like, I'm not causing any trouble. I'm just here wandering around, you know. Yeah, it's like, it's just so strange. And I had this, the whole time I was an addict, no matter what happened to me, and I'd put myself in just the most ridiculous, stupid situations sometimes, it was like, it did feel like there was some sort of like higher power, protection, something that was taking care of me. Because even in the darkest moments, I was okay.
Wow.
Like even I'm in a crack den, but I'm still having dinner with everyone every night.
Yeah. This episode is sponsored by Gavin Sisters, the passionate teetotal founders of the Detox Balm Retreat and the creators of Funky Coffee. If you love the taste of coffee but want to ditch the crash, Funky Coffee is your new go-to. Made from triple certified organic Arabica coffee and infused with powerful mushrooms, it gives you all the energy and none of the jitters. Plus, it's amazing for your gut, skin, and athletic performance. And if you're looking to recharge your body and mind, you've got to check out the Detox Barn. This award-winning retreat located in both the UK and the Algarve is a plant-based, alcohol-free sanctuary where you'll learn how to be healthier, happier, and more balanced. Whether it's for a weekend away or a full restorative retreat, just visit gavinsisters.co.uk and use the code School of Rock Bottom for 10% off your next retreat or a bag of their amazing Funky Coffee. That's School of Rock Bottom for a 10% discount for a healthier, happier you. Go check them out. I definitely concur. There is a huge light energy to you. I felt it as soon as I met you, and I think that undoubtedly helped you. I think also as well, there, retrospectively perhaps, maybe in the moment, you can tell me in a minute, you very much see rock bottom as a school, but like me, I mean, I think you said it was a gift or there's relief at the bottom of the pit. Yeah. So the fact that you've been able to do that, obviously rock bottom, I mean, me and you agreed about this over a coffee. There very rarely is there a moment. There's an accumulation of moments that kind of bring you to a place where you can't ignore the pain anymore. I think everyone's story is different there. But for you to survive all of that, I mean, in particular, methamphetamine, and gambling, two of the most highly addictive things, actually. I mean, gambling has a 90% relapse rate.
I remember there was this time I was a really close friend of mine now, actually. At the time, we weren't super close, but we were good friends. I went round to her house and she was using a lot of coke, actually, at that time of her life. And I'd just gone over to have pizza or something. And I got there and she said, "Oh, really sorry. Like I had a drink and I've escalated and I've got a bag and da-da-da-da-da." And I was like, "Okay." And she said, "Do you want some?" And I went, "Actually, no, like I actually don't." And I remember driving home that night and I thought, yeah, I was like, that indifference is such a superpower. Like when you get to indifferent, you know you've really turned a corner. And I definitely wouldn't say to people, oh, don't worry about it. Like, because I know 12-step programs, you know, push abstinence.
Yeah.
They're like, if you touch anything, like, you are fucked.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think that, but I'm also not going to advocate for people to test that theory out.
Sure,
you know, because I don't think it's worth it if that's not the case for you.
Yeah.
But we've had a few discussions about willpower and mindset.
Sure.
And I think for me, it was never a willpower thing to get off the drugs. And I've had people listen to my story, and maybe it's the way that I present it as well, who have said to me, I don't really think that you were a drug addict. Because if you were, like, it wouldn't have been that easy to get off the drugs. And I used to get quite offended by that, because I would think, actually, like, fuck you, because I did something that's really hard to do. And just because I did it in a way that seems easy from the outside, doesn't mean that I didn't do it or that my experience wasn't valid.
And it wasn't easy. The way you describe it is not easy.
No. And it was very many moments of, like, taking a step. And also the entire time throughout addiction, when life is, like, crumbling around me, I was an avid journaler, which I think really, really helped me.
Yeah.
Because I was always analyzing why. Like, why? And I used to have these conversations with people. I would meet them and I'd say, why do you think you're an addict? And they'd say, well, I just really enjoy taking drugs. And I was like, I don't think that's right, because you're literally sitting in a crack den with, like, nothing for your life, you know. Oh, I just find it fun. This isn't that fun.
I think the mindset thing has been key for you, and it's quite interesting, this kind of willpower versus mindset debate that people have, but they are different things. I completely agree with you. I think, and your mindset shift is quite phenomenal, actually, and I think you're quite blessed in a lot of ways that you're able to harness that. It's interesting because you said higher power earlier, and I think a lot of my listeners or viewers will probably go, oh, you know, Charlotte must be in 12-step fellowship, but actually you're not. No. You know, which is great. I mean, in the sense that it's your story and you've found a way to find recovery without it. I've never ever set this podcast up to say this is the way that people recover. There's lots of different ways to recover, ways, yeah. And I think it's really important to have you on to voice that. And it doesn't trigger me to be around it. Like, if people are around it, I'm like, cool. That's, you know, if that's what they want to do. And I think that's amazing. I also think what's great as well is that I think on paper you're kind of the opposite of the 12-step kind of thesis, but I would actually argue, and this isn't me trying to sort of draw any parallels, but I actually think you're quite similar in a lot of ways. Yeah. Because we were talking about step one on the way here, that it put you off. You said, you know, I don't want to be powerless. The way it was presented to me. Yeah. Which you said actually maybe it wasn't presented to me accurately, correctly. Absolutely, and I think this is one of the things. My interpretation was like, get that away from me now. Yeah, and how dare you call me powerless? And if you go on internet, they'll say, you know, why would the 12 steps work? Because it says literally in step one that you're powerless. Yeah. You know, but you're only powerless until you find that power greater, which can mean so many different things. It can mean recovery itself. You had a spiritual awakening, and you literally came in contact with the power greater. So for me, I've now got power over drugs and alcohol. And if I look at the way I was prior to getting off the drugs. Yeah. I was powerless. I was like giving away my power, not even necessarily to the drug. I kind of actually find the best way to look at drugs is actually like they're neutral. So it's like they're so demonized, right? Because it's like, if you take them, this will happen. But actually, no, that'll happen if there's something within you to make that happen. Yes. Hence why, as we said before, so many people take drugs don't become addicts. It's interesting as well, because I think you've got a very strong sense of step one, of step two, believing that there's something greater, and also this spiritual awakening of step 11, and then the step 12 of giving back. It's just the middle bit you've done in a different way, maybe through therapy and different things. I was outsourcing my power, not necessarily to the drugs, but to like the people, the behaviors, the this and that. And I was very like, you know, people pleasing, and all my energy was going out. But like, what was I giving to me? Yeah. And that was a turning point for me. It was like noticing that voice in my head of, why am I so nasty to myself? Like, if I drop something on the floor, I'll call myself a stupid fucking idiot. Yeah. That's not normal. You would never speak to another human being like that. And I started to correct that out loud and be like, actually, no, I'm not. Like, almost stand up to myself as if it was another person speaking to me like that. Yeah. And a big turning point for me
And I think I also kind of slowly was getting to this point through journaling, was like actually seeing myself exactly as I was, but without shaming it. So I can just remember sitting in my bed, and I'd been smoking, and it was this was the day I stopped, and I was like journaling, and I just like looked around at my apartment, and there was just like crap everywhere. There was boxes, because I'd managed to, we'll get to this at some point I'm sure, but I'd managed to get to myself into an apartment. My stuff was out of storage, but did I unpack it? No, it was all there, just like, you know, everything was a bit kind of dirty from like the storage unit, all of these things. And I just remember looking around and being like, ugh, everything is so dirty and like uncared for and not taken care of and all of these things. And I thought, and look at the people that I'm spending time with and the behaviors I accept, like the treatment that I accept from these people. No wonder my life looks like this. And I was like, it was like I just suddenly woke up. I just saw. And I wasn't like, in the past, it had been, look at you, like you're so disgusting. No, like no wonder your life
was it your spiritual awakening that happened after that? That was during the process. For those that don't know what I'm referencing, I mean, I think sometimes when people talk about spiritual awakening, there can be sort of these vague stories, whereas I think yours is very specific. You know, you had one of your best friends pass away, and you saw him at the petrol station.
That was crazy. Like even to this day, I think I can't even explain that. I've never had anything like that happen to me since, but yeah, my friend passed away, and he was a big advocate for me to turn my life around. And he was actually kind of in that world, like he was in the drug world, but he wasn't a meth user. I think there's sometimes a bit of a like hierarchy, not hierarchy, but you know how each different drug users are like, oh, like I'm not like them. So he was a bit like, well, you know, I might be an addict, but I'm not on meth.
Although sometimes the meth like we're the hardcore ones. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But he was very much this positive influence in my life that was, I mean, in another lifetime, he would have just been the most incredible motivational speaker, coach, that he would just had this energy of just like never ending energy and just poured it out into everybody else.
Wow. Sounds amazing.
Just indescribable person. And so he was always like, you know, like you can, like you totally can change your life if you want to, but like it starts with you. And he was also the only person who listened to me when I was an addict.
Got you. Because
I think a lot of the time when you're an addict, especially when you get to that point of rock bottom of like, you've got no money, you've got no job, you're surrounded by people doing the same thing. There's like crime, run-ins with the police, like people going to prison, like I said, gangs, guns, sex work, all of the things that are going on.
Yeah.
People don't take you seriously. So I could have a conversation with, say, my parents who are so far removed from that world. Their understanding of that world is what they see on TV.
Yeah.
And I say to them, all I need to get better is a place to live that feels safe, like to not have to worry about like where I'm living anymore, and to be kind of on my own, and to not have to worry about money for a couple months. That's all. And I knew, I was like, that's all I need to
and he
sort
offered that
this,
to you,
this
didn't
out.
he? I think he basically said, come over and we'll figure it out, something.
Yeah. He's like, cut, you know, and I said that to him, but if I said that to other people, and I would say to people a lot as well, which everyone I knew who was not in the drug world, I'd say the drugs aren't the problem. And they're like, of course the drugs are the problem. Like, look at you. And I'm like, no. I'm like, you don't understand the drugs. I was like, the drugs are not the problem. The drugs are the solution.
Yeah.
They always are the solution.
Yeah.
So what's your problem? Because you're using that to solve them. If you can work out the problem, you no longer need that solution. Every time.
Boom.
Like
100%.
Every time. Doesn't matter the person. That's it. And everyone would look at me like I was crazy. But he never did. He was always like, I hear you. Like, what do you need to help you?
Yeah.
Like, what is it that you actually need? And so, the last conversation that I had with him was, all I need is that, like, a place to stay where I don't have to be worried about moving and all these things, and to just not have to worry about money for a couple of months. That's all I need. I know that's all I need, because where I was like constantly chasing my tail. I was trying to get away from the crack den, and I'd get enough money to do that, and then I'd go back because I'd run out of money, and like I just couldn't seem to like pull away long enough. And I'd go for periods not using drugs in the crack den, but there's like people literally, you know, my ex-boyfriend's like sitting next to me offering it to me, and after a few days you just think like, fuck it.
What astounded me about the story though is that he sort of passed unexpectedly, and I know you didn't stop using for a few months after that, but you didn't spiral as much as maybe I thought you would, maybe just listening to your podcast account anyway. It's almost like he was kind of there, sort of giving you, you know, he's sort of giving you messages. Now, obviously there's going to be people listening and watching now that are probably going to go, oh, you know, we're going to go all a bit woo-woo now, but just for the benefits of time, I'm just going to kind of describe the kind of chronological event pattern. If I get anything wrong, tell me. So you were in the petrol station. He had his hood up, and he basically said everything's going to be all right.
He didn't say anything.
Okay.
I walked in, and I'd been receiving all these messages. I would say that's the only way I can describe them. But it was kind of like little weird synchronicities, emails with like subject titles that were expressions that he would literally say. You know,
lots of music as well.
Lots of music, like playing that would randomly start playing. Like even on the way to his funeral, that one of the last things we said on the phone to each other, I just said, "I'll see you the next time it rains," because I could never commit to a plan. So I was like, "I'll just see you the next time it rains." I'm driving to his funeral, and it's like sun, and it just starts pouring with rain. And then that exact moment, Spotify decides to play the 10 Crack Commandments, like on.
Oh, what a tune!
And he was really into that kind of music.
I know.
And I just thought, nah, I'm like, that's just too weird, like whatever. I'm like, it's just a coincidence, right? Because I wasn't spiritual then. I mean, I was open to it, but I wasn't.
You just thought it was just coincidence.
Yeah. So I'm coincidence. So these things were happening a lot, to the point that I actually thought I was going crazy, and I would regularly say to myself, I think I'm actually experiencing psychosis. Yeah. And I was so scared to tell anyone, because everyone knew I was on drugs, and I didn't want to be like locked away somewhere.
Well, I mean, you know, I think from a medical point of view, psychosis can happen with meth. I think it's quite common. However, I don't think it's as simple as that. I think when we change neuroplasticity, that my listeners of viewers are going to think I've gone very woo-woo now, that, you know, we are open to maybe receive things that we won't in real life. I mean, we can't hear a dog whistle. We can only see between ultraviolet and infrared light, for example. We can't see so very simple things. So I don't discredit your account. And then I think what actually really kind of validates your account is you ended up in a crystals shop, is it?
Yeah.
Not crystal meth shop. Not a crystal meth shop. No, a healing crystal shop.
Well, so basically I see this, it was him, basically my friend, in this petrol station after I'd been receiving all these signs. So I'm ignoring them, pushing them away. And then I walk into this petrol station, and there he is standing in front of me. He's got a hood up, and he looks me right in the eye, like closer than you and I are right now.
Wow.
And didn't say a word, just looked at me. The look was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, kind of like, come on, man, like sort your life out, you know?
Sure.
So I ran away. And I think you heard that part of the story, that I'm trying to kind of just like not think about it. I'm on YouTube scrolling, and this random video of the Olsen twins comes up. And when I saw him, the only thing that was different about this face of this person, because often when people die, you see people that remind you of them. Mm-hmm. This was him, except the only difference was he didn't have a freckle on the end of his nose. So after I go back to the crack den, I'm scrolling videos on YouTube, just trying not to think about the fact I just saw my dead best friend. And there is this video that pops up of the Olsen twins, and she's like, I used to have a freckle here, but now it's gone. And I was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
The next day, had a thought pop into my head, go to a homeless shelter. And I go, and they say, because of lockdown, we can't put you into shelter. We have to put you into a 4-star hotel in the city. So I go to the hotel. And whilst we're there, we come out of lockdown. And that's when I go to the crystal shop. And at this point, I'm thinking, I'm going crazy. And there's like so many weird things happening. And I'm also having quite like dark dreams, where like every time I fall asleep, I feel like there's something like coming towards me.
Yeah, I experienced that.
And And also I even had this app that would like record my sounds whilst I slept. And I remember one night almost hearing noises on it that was like, I don't even know what you're saying, almost like an exorcism type. It was weird. Like there was just, it really made me believe like, is there darkness that we can't see? Like it felt, that's what it felt. And I felt like I was being attacked by it.
Yeah.
And so I went to this crystal shop because that was all I knew in terms of like spiritual protection. I wasn't religious or anything like that. And I just go and I'm like, I think I've been cursed. I was like, all this weird stuff keeps happening to me, and like da 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 da. And they just looked at me kind of, okay, calm down. I was like, I think I need crystals, probably some spells or something. Like, just help me out. Like, what do I need? And they're like, okay, calm down. They're like, why don't you just go upstairs and have your cards read, and that might give you some clarity on what's going on. But they said it's very unlikely that you've been cursed by someone, so don't worry. I'm like, okay. So I go upstairs to get my cards read. And I hadn't mentioned anything about my friend, MJ, that was his name. And I walk in, sit down, and the first thing she says, she looks at me and she goes, you had a friend who passed recently. He's here.
Wow.
And it just gave me this feeling of, oh my God, I'm not crazy. Like this person is not a drug user. She doesn't know anything about me. She is just someone in a spiritual shop who reads tarot cards, and she's literally said that he's here right now.
Wow.
And she said, he wants me to tell you that you don't have to be afraid anymore. Like, he's got you, and you just need to keep taking the next step. Just keep going, and he will just sort out everything else for you. You don't have to worry about anything else. Like, he's got you.
It's incredible.
And it just gave me this sense of peace, of just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And also I then allowed myself to receive the synchronicities and the messages and all the weird stuff that had been happening. I thought, okay, well, what if I actually accept that this is him communicating with me? Just what if? Like, let's give it a whirl. Like I said, I'm very inquisitive. I'm always like, well, I may as well try it and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And I get back to my hotel room, which I'm thinking, this is crazy that I'm even in here anyway. I've just been given a hotel room for free. And I get a phone call from the support worker, and they say, oh, just so you know, the government is allowing people to take their pensions out early. So if you want to, you have access to $10,000.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, sign me up. And then I got a notification on my phone, and I still to this day do not know how this happened. But I opened up my phone, notification from Instagram, and it said, you have one new close friend. And it was MJ's account that had been added to this close friend list. And to this day, he's the only person on that list. I don't even know what that close friend thing is. I don't use it. So it was just like miracle after miracle that once I made that decision to get out, it just unfolded for me. But I really believe it was his support.
Yeah.
Almost like his energy like became part of me and like allowed me to get there, you know?
Did MJ save your life?
Yeah, I would say so.
Wow.
I sometimes think that in terms of like spiritual stuff, like he died so I could live.
Wow.
And I get really emotional when I listen to Christian songs about like Jesus saving someone, like he died for me, because I like relate it to MJ. Like I'm like, oh yeah, like I really feel that so deeply.
Potentially a difficult question, but if maybe he is here now, what would you say to him now if you could, you know, looking back on your journey to now, what would you say to him?
Just thank you for not giving up on me and for believing in me, you know. But I mean, I speak to him every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just always around. And I mean, I've had so many wild coincidences, synchronicities happen around him. And yeah, just like messages that come through and things. And it's just, I've never experienced anything like it. This like belief that there is something there that we don't know.
Is this what you really attribute to your recovery? The fact that you are really connected to source? Do you feel like literally God, source, universe, MJ, all of it is protecting you? Is that your recovery in a nutshell? Is that where you get your strength from? Just a real core belief in that? Or have I made it too simple?
I think so. Especially my connection with him. more so than like source and the universe. I mean, it's all one thing.
But
it just made me realize that when people die, like they don't really die. They just their energy just kind of goes into probably like this lamp. It's just the energy is all around us, and all you have to do even is just kind of like close your eyes and think of that person. You can feel their energy. He had such an effervescent energy. It was actually so obvious to me that it was him. Like once I started to connect to it, I could feel like the playfulness and like the silliness that like came with him, but also like the no bullshit. Like it's time to take care of business. Like, come on, what are we doing?
I think it's beautiful, and long may it continue. I hope your days of dabbling to test the experiment might be done. I'm slightly concerned about you trying something in Bali. I've only ever had
the dabbling is long gone. Yeah,
I'm really pleased to hear that. I feel like you're safe in Bali, and congratulations on nearly 5 years.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, it's really, really incredible. You know, I've met friends on the recovery path that sort of believed in sort of grandparents looking after them and things like that, and always being a little bit kind of unsure about that. But certainly on my recovery journey, I absolutely see that to be true. And it's really been through my wife, Mel, actually, who lost her dad when she was quite young. She's always kind of referencing that he's here, and that there's a robin that comes to our balcony, and she's always telling me that that's her dad, just kind of, not that her dad's the robin, but he's controlling the robin to come and say hello. And I think, you know, you get kind of two people in life. I don't want to kind of make it too simple, but I think when you get something that's unexplainable, potentially, I'm not saying what yours isn't unexplainable, but maybe you can't prove it to anybody, right? Yeah. That you saw him in that parking lot. You can prove the tarot reader. Yeah. That happened, and I believe your account. But I think you've got two choices as human being. When you say, I don't know, I think some people get quite depressed by that, and they sort of lean into nihilism that, okay, if I don't know, that means we all should just kill ourselves with drugs and alcohol, and there is no point to life. I think when you say, I don't know, what you're really saying is anything is possible.
Yeah, I don't know, but anything is possible.
Well, that proves that anything is possible.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? No one knows.
So why would you go to the darkest probability? Why would you not go to the light? I still don't understand that. I can understand that an active addiction, because it just self-perpetuates more misery and more using. But in terms of being in recovery or just being a human being, why not choose one of the possibilities that's positive? Because yes, maybe that is true, but there's an infinite other possibilities. Why pick that one? I still don't get why you would. Yeah. And it's very unlikely, because it's also just one of infinite possibilities. Yeah. So I'm with you. Let's stick in the light. Let's just enjoy life and stay connected to whatever that is.
And I think so often as well, people be like, oh, you know, that's not true, or like da 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 da. And even if you can't prove something, that doesn't mean then that it's not true. It just means it's not proven.
I agree.
And I think a lot of spirituality is just things that have not yet been proven scientifically, that we don't understand, we can't explain why that happens. And maybe we interpret it in a way that makes the most sense to us. Yeah. So there could be a scientific reason for my friend passed away, and then after he passed away, I then got this, you know, feeling da 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 da, whatever it might be. Yeah. But I interpreted it the way that I did, and it genuinely saved my life.
Absolutely.
Like if that hadn't have happened, I don't know where I would be right now. Probably still in the crack den.
And if that doesn't prove that doesn't exist, then I don't know what does. Yeah. And I think with that, it's a beautiful way to end. So many more things we could have talked about. I mean, one, I just want to throw it in, is I love the way that you flipped anxiety on its head. I did a very similar thing, because like you say, everything neurologically with anxiety is the same. And I did that particularly in early recovery. I'm not anxious. I'm just excited.
Yeah, I did, because I was so scared when all these things were happening. And I suddenly realized, wait, hold on. Like in my body, fear actually does feel quite similar to excitement. So I'm just going to say to myself, no, I'm not scared. I'm excited. Every time I felt terrified, like I was so scared of what was happening. And I just kept saying, I'm not scared. I'm excited. And then I learned down the line that actually, neurologically, it does something in your brain. Absolutely, as soon as you say you're excited versus that you're scared, it stops the release of some chemical. That is what actually gives you the anxiety. I think it might be like the cortisol, or the adrenaline,
cortisol, and the adrenaline, all that.
It suppresses something just by having that thought. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And that, because that's actually what happens normally. Like, you'll feel it and then your mind interprets, am I excited? Am I scared?
We also know this as well. Like, for example, if you give someone a real anti-anxiety pill and you do a brain scan, it will obviously do its thing.
Yeah.
If you tell someone that it's an anti-anxiety med and they believe it to be an anti-anxiety med, the same brain activity happens. Yeah. So that just improves that the power of the mind is real.
Yeah.
We could talk for hours.
We could.
If you want more on Charlotte, head to her Instagram. I'll put all her socials in the show notes. And also, she's not currently doing a podcast, but please go back and check out her story in more depth. Huge thanks for coming down again today.
Thank you so much
really
for having
appreciate it. Guys, as I said, go to the show notes. I've said it like 3 times, totally obsessed with the show notes currently. If you're watching this on Apple, no, not Apple. If you're listening to this on Apple, hit follow or subscribe, whatever it is. Give us a little review. That helps the algorithm. Spotify, hit follow. Another 5 stars. That would be amazing. If you want to give us less than 5, then don't bother. Only want 5. No, I'm only kidding. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe. Leave us a comment and share this with anyone that you think will get something from this conversation. And as I've always promised, and I've not let you down yet, I will see you in 2 weeks' time with a brand new episode. Until then, look after yourself. Thanks for watching or listening.